2016, we lost close to Kenya shillings 1 billion every working hour for the 123 days we held the election. And in fact, in 2017 election, the economy lost approximately 1 trillion in response to that particular electioneering period. And the question I pose, therefore, to the leadership of this country present here today is this: is this right? Is this trajectory the logical path that our country should take? Thank you. And as I have said before, our country has been in a constitutional moment since 2017. The only question is, what should we do with this constitutional moment? If we do not embrace it, how will it return to punish our nation? And if we embrace it, who are the winners and losers of that moment? That, honorable members, is the question before us today. The parliamentary record, as well as history, reflects that during this reporting period, my administration did attempt to resolve the constitutional dilemma facing our country. We went to the people, and 5 million Kenyans agreed to initiate the process of putting the First Amendment to the 2010 Constitution to a vote. The First Amendment, honorable members, was thereafter taken to county assemblies, where it received nearly unanimous endorsement. In this august parliament, the people's elected representative gave the first mandate a clear nod of approval by a margin in excess of 2/3. If indeed, and I speak to those that need to listen to this, if indeed Article 1 of the 2010 Constitution states that all sovereign power rests in the people of Kenya and can be exercised either directly or through their representatives, the people made their voices heard with regard to the First Amendment. They exercised this power directly through the IEBC petition for constitutional change. They made this petition indirectly through the county assemblies and parliament, and the record of parliament attests to the fact that the people of Kenya wanted a constitutional change, but a few individuals sat down in a back room and they decided otherwise. That said, and this being a house of records, I must record what we lost from the First Amendment, and I am doing this for parliamentary record and for posterity. The first loss was equity in resource allocation. In missing the First Amendment to the 2010 Constitution, Kenya missed the possibility to increase the minimum county allocation from the current 15% to 35%. My administration, as I mentioned earlier, has increased this allocation to 30%, but this only through administrative fiat. But to anchor this goodwill in the Constitution so that devolution is embedded, we wanted a constitutional amendment that was clear and certain. This, honorable members, did not happen. Had this amendment been adopted, counties would have by law received Kenya shillings 562 billion instead of the 316 billion allocated to them in the 2020-21 budget, an increase of over 75% of their current allocation. The second loss, honorable members, from the First Amendment was proportional representation. Proportionality is about the equitable distribution of resources amongst all groups. And on this particular point, I just want to focus on one: gender balance among. The First Amendment to our Constitution would have ensured that 50% of all senators were women. And the logic here was to ensure that if we percolate the proposed 35% of our national revenues to counties, women should be at the center of decision-making on how this revenue is utilized. But, honorable members, this did not happen. The third loss was about expanding our national executive to accommodate a broader face of Kenya and to expand representation. This would have constitutionalized the end of the winner-takes-all outcomes of elections that creates so much toxicity and tension. Again, honorable members, this did not happen. Honorable members, we cannot behave like the proverbial ostrich and bury our heads in the sand. A constitutional moment does not resolve itself simply by being ignored. The need for political stabilization is, I believe, the most urgent task facing Kenyans today. And it is the foundation. Upon which our greater justice, fairness, health, wealth, and security will be built on. And for this reason, I want to believe, honorable members, that that which did not happen will happen. Honorable speakers, ladies and gentlemen, I have given an account of my tenure in office for the last 8 years with a focus on the last year. I want to thank all members of Parliament in both houses for their individual and collective contribution to the realization of our legislative agenda. Over this last year, the National Assembly considered and passed 30 bills, while the Senate passed 19 bills, out of which 3 bills have received presidential assent, while 16 others are before the National Assembly. Mr. Speaker, I also note with appreciation that the National Assembly considered and approved 4 sessional papers, 36 statutory instruments, 15 treaties over the past 1 year, including the Economic Partnership Agreement between the Republic of Kenya and the United Kingdom and Northern Ireland. As you are aware, there are a number of critical legislative proposals emanating from the executive which are still pending in Parliament. And to that end, I urge Parliament to expedite and conclude on the legislative process so that we can have those urgently needed pieces of legislation